Welcome back to Homeopathy at Home with Melissa. Hey again, Melissa.
Hey Bree, I'm excited about tonight's Materia Medica Monday.
Yeah, we're back with another one. And today we're going to be covering Veratrum album or White Hellebore. Is that how you say that?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
take it
Oh,
away.
okay, so delusions of impending misfortune. Huh.
Okay.
Throwing out stuff from every orifice.
So like intense vomiting we're talking about
Yeah.
or diarrhea, anything?
Yeah. Intense diarrhea. Yep.
Okay.
Ambition. Any means possible to get to their goal. So there can be a violent and sudden effect. So again, we're thinking about diarrhea, vomiting. It can be part of that violent and sudden effect. A desire to cut and tear things. Fairly manic remedy
Okay.
and fairly insane in the extreme. So they don't have to have the extreme picture, because remember all these remedies when we were talking about them, you don't have to match 100%. But Veratrum album is mania, like I just said. So this mania looks like cutting, shrieking, tearing things to pieces. Hyperactive children. It's very hyperactive. It's a very hyperactive remedy, and they're just racing around, and they start doing repetitive things again and again. Counting, putting chairs together in a sequence, moving things from place to place, repetitive words and actions. Maybe even tapping. Tapping can be one of the things. I don't mean tapping, like people
Oh
do.
yeah, that therapy tapping.
Tapping.
You mean like
Um,
tapping to keep yourself busy?
yeah, well, or even like a manic, like a compulsive tapping.
Okay.
Mhm. So it's fairly manic. It's a great shock remedy, both physically and mentally. So if they go into shock, they can collapse. They can be extremely cold. It can be related to a lot of discharges like bleeding, hemorrhaging, surgery. Again, the diarrhea, the vomiting, and then they can go into shock because of all of this, the loss of these bodily fluids. So in childbirth, where there's been a lot of loss of blood, they can go into shock. And then what characterizes Veratrum album is the delusions of grandeur. So they think that they are more important than they are, or they pretend to be more important than they are. They're haughty. They look down on other people. There's a confusion of identity. And it goes from extremes with Veratrum album. So on one hand, you've got this, I'm a great person, I'm important, I'm amazing, there's nobody else like me. And then it also has the opposite, delusions that they're dirty, they're horrible, and they're forsaken, or that they're doomed.
Mm.
So they can be egotistical. Big keynote of Veratrum album is egotistical. This
That moth
moth
is getting you. Uh,
in the face. They can be very ambitious, and they want to get to the top. So again, like I said earlier, they'll do anything to get to to reach their goals. So the problem is, if your ego becomes overinflated and you start having delusions about who you are and how important you are and how great you are, you're setting yourself up for a fall. And the Bible says pride comes before a fall. So they're susceptible to a fall in that way, since they set themselves up. So we all have our ups and downs in life and fail here and there, but the Veratrum album it's catastrophic. It's catastrophic for them. It's a big deal when they fall. So there's a sense that that's what the shock is on the mental and emotional level. So there's a loss of social position. This is somebody who's really invested in who they are, their image, how important they are, and then they lose if they lose their social position, that's a big deal to them.
Mhm.
Where to you and I were like, you know,
Yeah. What social position? I don't even know.
uh, they're ruthless. They don't care about other people. Their image counts. They can be quite charismatic, narcissistic. The humiliation of what's happened to them takes their ego into a massive, huge place. There's fright, shock, loss of position. They have to build themselves to be big. It's a bit related to lycopodium. So lycopodium, they have lycopodium can be haughty and puff themselves up, but you wouldn't say that it's like a psychopathic kind of psychological disturbance. But Veratrum album is extreme, in that sense. So we all have different ways of dealing with shock, right? Arnica moves to a place of safety. I'm all right. I'm all right. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm fine. And Ignatia cries one minute, laughs the next. Aconite's just plain paralyzed, frozen with fear. And but Veratrum album is like these other things that we've already been discussing. So tell us about the symptoms for kids.
Okay, like we had mentioned before, so this is good for hyperactivity, one of those remedies for super hyperactive kids. They may be serious or precocious on the other hand. So remember, these are extremes. So a lot of remedies can do that. They can go both ways. These kids could be very intellectual, asking a lot of philosophical questions. Um, Other remedies like RM Met or Kelp Carb have some worry, maybe about their parents dying. Veratrum album is a little bit different. It's more philosophical. So these may be just precocious little intelligent kids asking a lot of questions. Um, it's good for mental overstimulation that might cause them to go crazy. We mentioned it's like a mania. So the kid who flies into overdrive because of the overstimulation, you might see their minds just racing. They can't sit still, very restless. Maybe a kid who's boasting. So, like we had just said, that like a podium puffs up, but this is even more extreme. They show no remorse when they're reprimanded. They may, now this one's kind of intense, may play with excrement. And I'm saying that because I know parents have experienced it. So something to look for. Some other symptoms of Veratrum album. This isn't necessarily just for kids. A Veratrum album person may consider themselves to be rich, but squander money. So that delusion of their identity. Maybe on the opposite end, super affectionate, embracing and hugging everybody, really attention seeking, all about that attention and their ego, but coming from a place where they feel unimportant. They might flatter people, fake a sickness, so pretend to be sick because they want that attention. And then they may want to be the center of attention and nothing else is good enough. I have to have all of the attention. Again, like we said before, fear about position in society. So very much a status remedy. So think politicians, I mean, social media influencers who have that, not all of them obviously have this ego, but you can tell the types that do. Veratrum album is really contemptuous. So very flattering to people in power above them, but very contemptuous of people below them because they're climbing that social ladder. They may be liars, really untruthful, and they'll lie to get to a certain position that they want. They may seem unfeeling, um, gossipy. So anyone that's obsessed with power and social position is going to invest a lot of time in taking other people out and bringing them down, exposing the faults of a lot of other people so that they can be in a higher position of power.
Mm.
So these people don't have a sense of honor. They don't speak the truth. They may be frustrated with these ambitions and aspirations they have, and may lead to this depressed, forsaken feeling because they feel internally maybe really unimportant, like they don't matter, they've been left behind. That moth, Melissa keeps getting attacked by this moth, so if you can see it in the YouTube video. But in case you're listening, just know it's what she's dealing with.
While we're laughing.
Yeah. Okay, it might be ailments from injured pride or injured honor. So that's interesting
Mhm.
that there might be physical illness as a result of that.
Yeah.
Maybe these people are often rude and may say something like, "It's not me. Everybody else is crazy. I'm not the problem."
Mm.
Um, Maybe a very preachy person walking around preaching to everybody else, trying to save the world. Maybe very precocious, so singing, whistling, and running around laughing. So that again is that mania picture, I think, like an extreme version of somebody trying to get attention.
Yep.
Going along with that religious identity, they may be obsessive prayers and then suddenly be completely opposite, like
Mm.
swearing, saying things that are totally opposite behavior that you think of. Imagining the world is on fire and everybody's doomed. They might be promiscuous to get attention and do more of that, like running around hugging everybody, a
Mhm.
lot of attention getting behaviors.
Yeah. Wow.
That's a
Veratrum,
lot of the mentals.
that's, again, this is one of those that I only ever think when I hear Veratrum album, I think of vomiting and diarrhea.
Yeah, me too. And
And
really, we've covered a lot of the mentals, which I don't even know that I knew of many of the mental pictures,
right.
things in the mental picture.
That's why I love these Materia Medica Mondays. We really, when we discuss these remedies, then it's so much easier to remember them, you know?
Yeah.
So the physical general symptoms of Veratrum album, they're very chilly. And this is Veratrum is one of the chilliest remedies in the Materia Medica. Even the nose is cold, the breath is cold, the sweat is cold. Their bones might feel cold, their blood and their arteries and veins might feel cold, and as if ice water ran through the veins and the arteries. They have profuse discharges, so that goes along with that vomiting and diarrhea, terrible diarrhea. And this is vomiting and diarrhea that's coming out at the same time. So you've got a bucket and while you're sitting on the toilet. Collapse and shock, sudden collapse and shock, and sudden loss of strength, post-op shock, dehydration. They tend to faint easily, fainting from emotions, or from vomiting, and the slightest movement will make them faint. They can have spasms, cramping, crave ice cold drinks, can be very thirsty. So it's very interesting that they're very chilly, but they still crave the ice cold drinks.
Hmm.
Violent thirst for ice cold drinks. And remember, again, violence. So, a lot of things about Veratrum are violent. Ooh, violent Veratrum. Well,
There
hope
we
you
go.
remember.
Gotta
Mhm.
remember that one.
Violent Veratrum has this violent thirst for ice cold drinks, which they vomit as soon as it's swallowed. They crave salt. They can like fruit, but it disagrees with them and causes them to vomit, and will cause diarrhea. They crave sour, acid things, but it aggravates them. And they might have cramping pains in the abdomen, stabbing pains, along with digestive problems. And the diarrhea could be a greenish color, painful cramping, severe dysmenorrhea with vomiting and chilliness. Man, that sounds terrible. Very pointy
Yes.
nose. They might have a very pointy nose, sunken features, eyes sunken in, pale, sunken, really don't look well at all. So it's exactly the picture that could be brought out of recreational drugs. It's a big remedy for cocaine.
That makes a lot of sense. So when
Mhm.
you say that, you're saying for somebody who is an addict or maybe is getting sober, maybe?
Yeah, so I think either way. Yeah, so it could
Okay.
help the person. It could help the person through the addiction, maybe. As I think it would be part of a remedy care plan. I don't know that I would do it as the only
Right.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But a lot of these things, when people are coming out of drug addiction, um, they have these extremes.
Yeah.
They can, they can have these extremes, these ups and downs,
And
and
that mania, that
yeah,
craze.
because they've
Well,
been
and
using.
even that like opposite end of the identity thing as they're figuring out feeling this way about themselves, but then acting like they're very egotistical and narcissistic. I think that can be part of coming out of a heavy drug like that for sure.
Right, right. So that's it for Veratrum album, Violent Veratrum. I will start to call it and teach it that way. It's a
Hmm.
great remedy, great
Yeah,
material.
this is good.
Mhm.
Um, thank you guys. I know we've usually mentioned Veratrum as diarrhea, like instead of or arsenicum album or Veratrum album. So I learned a lot.
Yeah, great one. Thanks for being here with me, and we'll see you guys next time.